everyone, and welcome. My name is Abram Wanner, and today we're going to be tying the Rainbow Warrior. It's a subsurface nymph that you can fish either with a strike indicator. Some people will do it either Euro nymphing as well. It can be either tied from a curved hook or also from a jig. This is what we're going to be tying today, so let's get started. In the vise, I already have a curved hook. Any nymph hook will do. Also, like a caddis or a pupa hook will work. This is just like a curved nymph hook. It's in size 12, and we have a silver mottled bead that's about the same size. So we're going to be using that today. Most of my materials, I'll pick them up either from one of the local sporting goods stores or Support Fly Fish Food. So definitely a shout out for them. I really like those guys. Saludos al chich. So today we're just going to be starting with a little bit of UTC fluorescent pink. This is UTC 70. We're just going to be going almost all the way down to the bend of the hook. Traditionally this is tied with like a red, just for like the end collar for like a hot spot, but I wanted to switch it up and do a little bit of pink, so that's what we're going to be using today. After we've got our thread down to the bend of the hook, we're just going to be using a little bit of pheasant tail. Grab about 6 fibers. This is pheasant tail that's dyed golden yellow. I really like this color just because it's pheasant tail. You can see that it's obviously got that red hue to it, but that yellow is what gets it for me. So that's what we're going to be using today. We're just going to take those right off and measure a little bit about length of the hook, tie it in on the side that's closest to you, obviously. It's just a little bit easier, rule of thumb. That way it'll end up rolling onto the top, which is where we want it. And you can see that those are a little bit long. You just can adjust those once you've put a couple of wraps. And some people will even tie those down a little bit like the hook shank, just so that it shows like that curve. Those are looking pretty darn good to me. So then we're just gonna tie our thread all the way up. Take advantage of those pheasant tail fibers to build a little bit of a body. Once we get to the bead, we're just gonna snip them. And then we're just gonna go back and cover that up real quick. It's not gonna take us too long. And once we've been back up to the bead, we're now gonna be using a little bit of this Hareline lateral skill in pearl. I really like this. You can see that it's got kind of like a crimp to it. And so on these products, it's easy, instead of having to take them out of their packaging, just to snip a little bit off the side. And then you can actually get your scissors in there and just open them up gently. You can actually get one of the fibers out. Super easy. So I've already got a fiber out here. We're just gonna tie that in right behind the bead. See if it wants to get in there. If not, you can always tie a little bit of the tag in and then slide it right back. But we're just going to make sure that this is tied down all the way. And because of how thick it is, and depending on the size of the Rainbow Warrior that you're going to be tying, obviously these can get down to size 14s, 16s. Usually people will fish them though in the 12 to 16 range. But then after that, we just want to make sure that we can then move our pearl here. And then it's not going to be showing any of that pink down there. Then we're just going to make a little bit of a taper. It's not going to take us too long. Be real quick. This fly is also designed so that it's not very large. It's got more of like a slim profile to it. And so you'll see why. But this is mostly the body of the fly. So we're just going to wrap our thread all the way back up to the bead. And then that will allow us to then start rolling and wrapping that in. So you can see we're just going to go one on top of each other. Just a few wraps and bring it all the way up. Tie that in. Get a couple wraps behind, a couple wraps in front. And that will allow us then for us to snip that off. At this point, we're just gonna build up a little bit of a bed for the dubbing. We don't want to add too much dubbing here, but we want enough that it's gonna show a little bit more of a smoother transition. For dubbing today, we're just gonna be using a little bit of this rainbow dubbing. This is also from Hareline Dubbin, but this is the Senyo's Fusion Dub. We're gonna be using this rainbow color here. You're not gonna use a lot. You can get a little bit of like a dubbing wax or something like that on your fingers just to make sure that it gets in. And we're just gonna get a little bit of like a pinch. It's not gonna be too much. But we're just gonna make a quick dubbing loop. I love the fluorescent that is in this dubbing. It just makes it so much more visible. I really like it when you can take a UV light to it as well. And you can see how that just brightens right up. So I love doing that. But since we're not going to be adding anything on it, we're just going to be pushing that up to the bead, making sure that that's on there. And it's going to be really quick. We're just going to tie that in. You can see that we put on about the right amount. We're not even going to have to worry about putting more, taking some off. Always less is more. With dubbing, you can always add more on. It's kind of like a pain afterwards, but once we get to that point, you can see that we can barely start to see that thread in there. That's when we want to whip finish, because then the whip finish is actually going to put it on our hot spot in our collar. About 6 or 7 wraps should do it. But you can see that now that has that little bit of a collar on it. So like I said, you can use red, you can use fluorescent pink, maybe even go with some different color combinations. Obviously, you've got your traditional rainbow warrior, but who says that that's going to be the excellent color combination for your water? So whatever works best. You can always clean it up, you can always scruff it out. Really just depends on preference. But that is our rainbow warrior.